Social entrepreneurs are not content just to give a fish or even teach how to fish. They won't rest until they've revolutionized the fishing industry. That's a quote from someone called Bill Drayton, who was the chair and founder of Ashoka, which is a global non-profit organization devoted to developing the profession of social entrepreneurship. Innovation isn't easy, and social innovation even less so. That quotation suggests the intricacies of the challenge. Social innovation entrepreneurs tend to look beyond short-term solutions and rather to the ways in which they might make long-term structural change. With Luminaid, co-founders Andrea Shrestha and Anna Stork have created a product that has the capacity to do both. This case study explores the ways in which Luminaid has been able to create value for consumers and vulnerable communities alike. By investigating the means by which Luminaid has responded to the challenge of maintaining growth in both customer sales and the humanitarian sector, and looking further at its lean approach to scaling the venture, this study positions Luminaid at the forefront of design-led social innovation. What can light do? The original Luminaid lantern was designed when Shrestha and Stork were classmates at Columbia's Graduate School of Architecture, as a response to the 2010 earthquake in Haiti. Prompted to design a product that would help to meet the critical needs of individuals affected by the crisis, they realized that there was a requirement for something beyond food and water and basic first aid: light. For vulnerable communities, access to a safe, waterproof and transportable light source which can be powered by the sun is invaluable, and Luminaid scores on all those counts. It's safe. Alternatives such as kerosene lamps are very hazardous. It's waterproof. Luminaid has an IP67 waterproof rating. And they're transportable. Their Packlight series of lanterns collapse to just 20% of their inflated size. So in areas in which communities are living under particular hardship, accessible lighting provides a sense of security and community. Beyond this, light facilitates study into the evening, providing much-needed access to education for disadvantaged children across settings all around the world. In areas of extreme deprivation, ready access to light facilitates not only the meeting of short-term needs, but also the social mobility required to combat many of the issues which reinforce poverty. Since the first Luminaid lantern was launched in 2010, successive iterations have followed, including a lantern which doubles as a phone charger. Considering that 1.6 billion people across the world do not have access to readily available energy, the implications of this are immense. Particularly in areas hit by natural disaster, a primary need of many individuals is in making contact with relatives. By providing a 75 to 100% smartphone charge, the Luminaid Packlight can facilitate this kind of contact. The impact that Luminaid lanterns and chargers can make is clear, and there are a variety of ways in which it's been enabled over the past 10 years. The most immediate is through direct partnerships with non-government organizations and humanitarian entities, people like Shelterbox, the United Nations Population Fund, Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, and Convoy of Hope, to name just a few. Luminaid offers a significant discount to such organizations. They also offer a limited number of full donations to humanitarian projects with limited budgets, via an application process. According to the Luminaid website, over 250,000 lights have been distributed by their partners to those in need, 50,000 of which were sponsored directly through their Give Light, Get Light program. This Give Light, Get Light program follows a similar model to the One for One campaign established by Tom's Shoes 13 years ago. Customers are able to purchase a light for themselves, alongside sponsoring a light for someone in need. In the Luminaid case, they're able to choose between disaster relief, refugee relief, or allocate as needed. It's also currently possible to purchase packages that include children's shoes manufactured by Because International, and simple sponsorship packages that don't include a customer purchase. Unlike the Tom's one-for-one campaign, it's also possible for customers simply to purchase items without explicitly sponsoring another one for humanitarian purposes. This is a core feature of the Luminaid model. In order for them to offer significant discounts to humanitarian agencies, they must also focus a noteworthy proportion of resources on developing their consumer brand. A recent survey suggested that as many as 87% of United States consumers will buy a product because a company acted on an issue that they felt strongly about. For Luminaid, as for an increasing number of contemporary enterprises, a demonstrable social conscience is an integral part of their marketing strategy. But there's no cynicism in Luminaid's business model. Consumer sales are the primary means by which they can facilitate donations and discounted products to disaster and refugee relief. This creates a particularly tricky challenge. Craig Wertman, professor of entrepreneurship at Chicago Booth Business School, where he acted as an advisor to Shrestha, puts it in this way. These goals require markedly different sales strategies, marketing plans, and pricing models. Things that would be tricky for an established company to pull off, and which are incredibly challenging for a startup. Shrestha and Stork have been meeting this challenge with one overarching response: by creating a design-led, high-quality product through a process of testing and iteration. Stork describes the process as follows. We're constantly iterating on our products and working to make them as powerful, long-lasting and sustainable as possible. Our commitment to iteration can be seen in everything from new products to improving the smallest details of our existing products. One benefit of working in collaboration with large-scale humanitarian projects is that Luminaid are able to test their products under some of the harshest, most demanding conditions in the world. The long-term nature of many of their relationships with non-government organizations means that they're consistently receiving feedback that they can use to fuel further development. As their products continue to make incremental improvements, they're able to continue offering value to both individual consumers and humanitarian agencies alike. The idea of creating successive iterations based upon user data and testing is of course not a novel one, it's at the heart of agile innovation. But it is one that's increasingly prevalent. Miki Agrawal, a social entrepreneur and founder of Thinks, describes it as follows. My best piece of advice, and all my employees know it, it's a daily mantra, is that iteration is perfection. I think people get so caught up in being perfect, especially young women who are starting to get more interested in becoming entrepreneurs. I always say, put the minimum viable product out to market, get feedback, and then iterate, iterate, iterate. The perfection is in the iteration, and it's not in getting it perfect and right. It'll never be perfect. As architecture postgraduates, Shrestha and Stork are well versed in design thinking methodology, and their shared interest in the ways in which design thinking might provide solutions to global issues was a driving factor in their original collaboration. Essentially, design thinking is a methodology which challenges creators to seek to understand users, define problems, and create ideas and test prototypes. It's a non-linear process which is constantly in motion. By repeatedly responding to insights gained through their 10 years in production, and by creating successive iterations that seek to provide an increasing level of value, Luminaid are able to offer a product range that's consistently attractive enough to drive growth in the consumer market, which enables them to help in the humanitarian sector. What about scaling the venture? Though they've now provided light to over 100 countries across the world, Luminaid began modestly. Incorporating crowdfunding campaigns into their business and originally responding to inquiries personally, they took a lean approach to growing the venture. Scaling is often a stumbling block for social enterprise, and so when Shrestha and Stork were ready to grow the venture, they sought outside help and investment that would ensure a smooth transition. Amongst various sources of investment and guidance, they famously took part in CNBC's Shark Tank, in the UK that's called Dragon's Den, in which they enlisted the supervision of Mark Cuban. Stork describes their reasoning for collaborating with Cuban. Mark saw the potential for Luminaid light technology, and this really resonated with us. He encouraged us to push the boundary with innovations in design and to think about what's next for disaster relief aid. This is a great mindset for us to have as a company, and we keep this at our core. By procuring the advice of outside experts like Mark Cuban and considering cautiously the basis for these connections, Shrestha and Stork have ensured a steady and reliable level of growth. When asked about their plans for the future, Shrestha's focus is characteristically on innovation in the design of their product offering. She says, "We'd like to continue to innovate and push the envelope when it comes to well-designed solar lanterns, both for humanitarian aid and for everyday use. We'll continue to grow our mission to make safe, sustainable solar lighting more accessible to all. By drawing on a rich design thinking approach in order to create ever more effective products, and managing carefully the progression of their enterprise with the assistance of considered experts, Shrestha and Stork have laid the groundwork for long-term viability. Combined with a product offering that contains within it the promise of improving the life chances of a significant number of individuals around the world, Luminaid is an example of the profound power of social innovation."